Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to everybody that's viewing in today to the Victim No More podcast. Listen, I am the guest host for today. I'm super excited to be here tonight. My name is DeAngelo Malcolm. I am so happy to be here. Hey, listen, if you are catching us on whatever social media platform that you are on, come on, go out and share this with somebody. You're about to hear some amazing stuff that we have for you on tonight. We're super excited. I know the podcast has not been on for maybe like 4 or 5 months now, but guess what? We're here today. Got some more stuff in store for you to talk about that a little bit later. Hey, again, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be here because we have a great guest on today. I'm talking about there's no other way to kick off this day today, this podcast today that has not been on for a few months, than be able to interview the man, the myth, the legend, the guy behind all of this, my friend and my brother. Y'all know him. Some call him Bobby Patterson. I nicknamed him Bobby P because he is an extraordinary brother. I have the opportunity to bring him up today. You're going to hear some amazing things about him and some of the things that he has done in his life. And I want you to get a friend on today and let them know they're about to hear some amazing information tonight, an amazing testimony from an amazing guy. And so I nicknamed him Aquaman because his hair is so smooth. He gonna get me for that. But anyway, do me a favor, y'all. If you are in the chat, wherever chat you are, I want you to blow that chat up right now as we welcome in the visionary for the Victim No More podcast, my brother, my friend, Mr. Bobby P. Bobby P in the place to be.
Here you go. Here we go. He just couldn't behave. He had to throw in the Aquaman. Here we go.
I had to. What's up, brother?
Man, what's going on with you, bro?
Look, the Victim No More podcast has been on a little hiatus for a minute, but you are in the building on today, the man, the myth, the legend. And so, man, we want to say, man, it's so good to see you on tonight, man. How you feeling, bro? How you feel?
Man, it feels amazing to be here. It's good to be missed in this particular platform, but there's also a reason why, and I will touch on that, here as we go along. But I miss doing the podcast. But I will say this, I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. It will come back in this full form next year. It will. So we're in 2023, it'll be back. But today, I got special permission for today. And so this is where we're going with this. And this is unique for me. Because usually I'm the interviewer. I am the interviewee today.
That's right.
And I'm gonna, everybody. There's a lot of folks that know Bobby P.
Yeah.
You gonna hear from Bobby Patterson today.
We taking the gloves off. I want to hear.
We gonna take the gloves off.
And
For real.
you know the dangerous part? You put the mic in my hand, bro.
I knew what I was doing. I prayed real hard with that thing.
Hey man, you looking good, bro. I want to tell you that, man. I'm so proud of you, man. You're doing good. I see the 15-day challenge shirt on,
Yes,
man. You're
sir.
doing absolutely amazing. I guess I want to hop right into this thing, man. I know,
Okay.
we may have some people who are dying to hear from you on tonight. And so we're going to jump right into this thing on tonight, bro. And so listen. I just want to, I want to know, I need to know. I want you to talk about this. I know what it feels like to walk across that stage. And,
Right.
as a transformation contest winner, I was able to do that in 2018. It was a good feeling. But, bro, I don't know if anybody's story was more watched throughout Total Life Changes than your story when you walked across the stage. I want to talk to you a little bit about that, a little bit, briefly touch on, your journey leading up to it. I know what happened with it, but I want
Right.
to talk a little bit about leading up to winning that transformation contest. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, very briefly. Uh, Going into it, to be honest with you, and I'm gonna touch on major pieces as far as the story is concerned because I can't talk about one without talking about the other. How this whole thing started, and I had to really go back to we just celebrated. Well, we commemorated and acknowledged International Trigeminal Neuralgia Day, and that was October the 7th. And I had been diagnosed with that particular condition back in 2010. And after being in Total Life Changes, before I didn't want to come back. I kept kicking against the pricks, but then it became apparent that I had to come back, and I wanted to come back uh, with 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 someone that I knew was going to that was working the business, that took the products. They were a product of the product. You can look at them and say, "Hey, look, they are about their business." And I didn't know how that prayer was actually going to be answered and manifested, but it happened this way. And I bring up Trigeminal Neuralgia Day because back 2 years ago, 3 years ago, actually, in 2019, October 7th, I was bold enough to make my first post on Instagram talking about me having trigeminal neuralgia. Trigeminal neuralgia, the short definition of it, is an excruciating nerve disease that affects the trigeminal nerve, and it is horrendous. And I'm trying to choose my words carefully so we don't get censored on social media. But 30% of the people that are diagnosed with that particular condition decide to end their life because of the pain. And it's ironic that on that particular day, I made my first post talking about that. And I didn't want to, but I knew I had to. I just felt that urge, that pushing. And I made that post not realizing what was going to happen next, because there was someone who actually commented in the comment section, and they said something real simple. And I'll just paraphrase it. They said, I'm going to be praying for you. And it stuck out for whatever reason. So I went to their profile on Instagram, and I could see that they were about their business. They were serious about their products. And then I saw where they was holding some trophy. And I was like, man, they must have won something. And come to find out that they themselves were a transformation contest winner. And who I'm talking about is none other than the amazing, the incredible, my friend, Regional Director, Miss Fern Morgan.
Fern Morgan.
That's how my journey in Total Life Changes started when I came back. Because I had mentioned previously, I had been with the company before. I was on the products for 2 whole months before I officially came back, which was November 29th of 2019. So I'm about to be on my 3rd year anniversary being back with this amazing company.
So I want to talk a little bit about the disease itself. That connected you together. Trigeminal neuralgia. Is that
You
close?
got it. You got it.
That's my first time saying that, right?
Yes, sir. You did real good.
I appreciate it. And I kind of want to hone in on it just for a second. The pain um, I just want to talk about that type of pain. You know, a lot of us deal with certain pains, you know, and sometimes the pain is so excruciating that, you know, we don't want to do anything. We don't want to get up. We don't want to move. I just want to briefly kind of hit on that just for a second. I just want to understand the pain. Is that a daily thing, a weekly thing? I mean, how does that work?
Uh, Ironically, at once upon a time, it was pretty much a daily thing.
Mm,
Um, and the pain, I'm gonna be careful as far as describing this because I don't want to, seem too gruesome. But the bottom line is this: is just imagine somebody, and this is just one of the pains, one of them.
yes.
Imagine somebody taking a butcher knife
Mhm.
and torching the end of that butcher knife, and then they go ahead and they stab you in the face,
Mm,
and they continuously turning the knife
wow.
without them ever taking it out.
Wow. Wow.
And the deal is that typically most people are diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia on one side of their face.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with both on both sides,
So the pain
and
was on both sides.
there have been times where both sides were firing at the same time. And as a matter of fact, October 7th of 2019, when I made that post,
Mm-hmm.
they were firing on both sides. And just a moment of transparency,
Yeah.
I briefly shared this when I was on stage in Houston, but it needs to be said again. I had thoughts of ending my life that day because of
Wow.
that pain.
Wow.
And that was right before I made that post. So when I made that post, and this is why I teach and I preach, folks, be on your assignment. Because
Yeah.
if Erin wasn't where she's supposed to have been in that moment in her life and reached out and said what she said to me, none of this right here would
Yeah.
be happening.
Wow. Wow.
And so I will be forever grateful for that woman.
Yeah.
She has impacted my life in such a way that is, as you would say, my brother, undeniable.
Wow.
And I'm just grateful. I am super grateful. But the pain itself, now, this is crazy because my body has gotten much more back into balance.
Yes.
The flares don't happen as often. They still happen. As a matter of fact, and this is crazy. Uh, go back to when I won Transformation Tuesday
Yes.
back in August,
Okay.
and you know, internally I'm excited, but internally I'm also in pain because believe it or not, in the middle of me giving my testimony that day, a flare happened
Yeah.
on live on the air, and I've unfortunately I've dealt with that pain so much that I've learned to kind of navigate through that.
Wow.
But it got so bad that at the end of the broadcast, when they said I had won $1,000, it appeared as if I wasn't excited. Oh, I
Yeah.
was excited, but I was in more pain than I was excited about winning. And I was just trying to make it through the broadcast. But as
Yeah.
soon as I got off the air, I went and grabbed a pillow and just screamed in it because that's all I
Wow.
could do.
Wow. So Bobby, wow. I'm gonna say this to you, bro, man. First of all, huge shout out to Fern Morgan for being on the assignment, like you said, you know, because that's big, man. I just want to tell you, man, as you described that pain, I was actually feeling it in my, you know, in my body as you were talking about it, man. And you know, man, for you to do that and go through that type of pain and get that type of that whatever that type of pain when it flares up and you were able to fight through it to get to where you are right now, man, is really extraordinary. So my hat goes off to you, bro, because you accomplished some great things. You were voted, you know, top transformation in the content, and excuse me, in the company of Total Life Changes. You walked across that stage, man. So you know, I understand, you know, that feeling of being on that stage, and so you know, I know you at the height of whatever the pinnacle of TLC at that particular time. You at the pinnacle of your life, but it's a lot of other things that people don't know that you were dealing with. We're gonna talk a little bit about that too, Bobby. Just a little bit. We're gonna hit in that. But let me ask you this question. So walking that stage, and I think the number was 170.
It was, at that time, it was 164.
Okay, I was 164 at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Walking across. Kudos to y'all. Come on, show some love in the chat for that. This man lost at that time. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Was 164 pounds at that time, And so I just want to say, man, kudos to you for that. So you're walking, you coming off this stage. You just won. You were at the height of this thing. What happens when you walk off the stage, though? Because there's some stuff that has to happen when you walk off the stage. And so kind of tell me what happened when you walked off the stage.
Well, and for those who, that are fairly new and didn't see that, I just got through sharing childhood trauma, being sexually traumatized, molested as a 6-year-old, talking about the rescue guy, how that persona was cultivated, and then going into being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2006, then trigeminal neuralgia in 2010. And by the time I got done sharing all that, when I walked off that stage, and I got to keep myself together when I talk about this part, because you never know how people impact you. And furthermore, you don't know how you impact people. Yeah. I come off that stage. It was, even though I had given everything that I had, I was empty at that moment. And I was trying to find the nearest place that I could just release. I needed to cry. I needed to release that. So I come off the stage and I look over to the right and I see this big speaker sitting off the stage. So I go over to this speaker and I just lean over it and I just had to release. Because I delivered a lot on that day. I wasn't even paying attention who was around me. And I hear this quiet, unassuming voice to the left of me. Hey, Bobby P, you good, man? Can I get you anything? And I look up, and it was Kyrie.
Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, tell us who Kyrie is, Bobby P.
Kyrie, I believe, was one of the photographers, videographers for Total Life Changes. An amazing young man, incredible spirit, and we lost him unfortunately last year due to a car accident. And he would say stuff to me at different events, after that, and it was like one of those acknowledgments that, hey, bro, I see you.
Wow.
And so when that happened, that hit me a little bit differently when he passed away. Yeah. But you never know how people impact you, and you do not know how you impact people. So that's why it's so important, man, to never take nothing for granted and enjoy and walk in every moment like you're supposed to be there. Because getting back to coming off of that stage, I knew my life was no longer going to be the same after that. Yeah. Because what people did not know, and I am so grateful. I am so grateful because going through the process of them preparing the show and getting on the stage the day previous, I was interviewed by our COO, John Licari, and Rosa Gonzalez, and
the unicorn.
And I, in that interview, because that whole experience was powerful all by itself. But in that interview, I had asked them not to ask me a particular question, because I knew if they would ask me, I would not have been able to deliver what I had delivered on that stage. And it was this. And I tell people all the time that even though you see what you saw on that stage, I did it with a broken heart.
Yeah.
And by that I mean I asked them not to ask me anything concerning my family, because what I was really dealing with was my marriage at that time being on life support, and basically it was already dead.
So before you go further, let's kind of break. I want to unpack that, okay, Bobby? Let's
Mhm.
unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
So I want to set the tone for this thing. You dealing with the illness already. You know, you already was dealing with that. Um, but at the same time, you're forcing and pushing yourself through, you know, all these obstacles in order to transform your life. You do that. You get to the highest height, the highest pinnacle. You do that. You go on the stage, right?
Right.
And you win. You win.
Right.
And then when you come down, Kyrie, you know, God rest his soul, you know, he greets you. So you know, you got all these emotions, but behind the scenes, you're dealing with a whole nother issue,
Right.
and it's at home, the place where you're supposed to come to rest and get your refuge. And so let's hit on that, Bobby. Let's talk about that. So how I want to know how you got through that first of getting on the stage, and then where you at now.
Well, it's only by the grace of God, because
Yeah.
I'm not that good. I'm human, and
Amen.
humans have their limits.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, it takes the supernatural to get through this natural.
Yeah.
And here I was standing up on that stage, and I'm looking out at the crowd, and I'm hearing, I'm hearing, and I got to, shout out Team Shaw, Team Fit and Free, because I heard them. I heard them. And man, all at the same time, I'm thinking, my life is a mess. And I have been the type of individual that it didn't matter who was right or wrong. I wanted to fix it.
Yeah.
I wanted to take the whole responsibility, because I wanted joy. I wanted peace. I wanted happiness. I want what anybody with a sound mind would want when it came to their family. And so I'm having this great experience, but I was basically alone.
Mm.
And so I'm fighting through all that, and all at the same time, my health is still my first priority, because what I was really dealing with and fighting through that particular time, and this is not an issue, and I would never discuss the personal, intricate details as to why, what happened as far as the marriage is concerned. But I will say this is that, uh, I can't be pointing fingers, because whatever they did is on them. But I still have a responsibility, and I needed to fix me.
Yeah.
And there was a whole lot that I was still healing from, even as I was standing on that stage.
Yeah.
And all at the same time, it was lonely.
Mm.
There were times when I was like, man, I am literally in this thing by myself.
Yeah.
And going through that and understanding that I still needed to move on, because the very thing that was that seemed like it was hard work, my transformation literally saved my life. It kept my mind, it kept my spirit in the game.
Yeah.
So even when all hell was breaking out, I could retreat and continue to work on me.
Yeah.
That was the deal. That was the absolute, uh point of pivot for me each and every time. And
Was
it
it like
wasn't easy.
therapy? I'm sorry. Was it like therapy?
And it was therapy. I went
Yeah.
to therapy.
Yeah.
I don't care what nobody say,
Yeah.
especially in our community. It for years it had been frowned upon because we are so strong.
Yeah.
Look, go get the therapy. You'll be
Amen.
surprised how being able to open up to someone that, first of all, do not know you, they do not know you personally, they have no attachment to you other than your bank account, because yeah, they need to get paid. Outside of that, they are able to help you from an entirely different perspective professionally and as a believer. Yes, there are therapists out here, there are counselors out here, there are psychiatrists out here who are kingdom minded, who operate their business based off of those biblical principles. So the help is still out there. Do not believe the lie that we can get through this on our own, and especially the men. I got to talk to the men. Look, y'all, go, care our behinds. We need to go get help.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us who are dealing with childhood issues, and we're trying our best to be adults, and we're trying to be our best to be Superman, but it's actually Clark Kent that need to be healed.
Wow. Oh man, I like that. I like that. So let me say this, Bobby. For all those who are joining us, welcome to the Victim No More podcast. My name is DeAngelo Malcolm. I am here with the pleasure of interviewing the visionary leader of the Victim No More podcast, Mr. Bobby Patterson, aka Bobby P. And we're talking about, his transformation. He was voted top transformation and total life changes, walked across the stage, all in dealing with a lot of personal issues that were going on in his life. He was dealing with disease, and he was dealing with this disease that gave him a lot of pain on a daily basis. And so he was dealing with that, unpacking that type of trauma, and then at the same time dealing with a marriage that was on the rocks. And so just listening to his story, and then I'm gonna go back and piggyback something he just said. Please, fellas, I mean, ladies, we love the sisters, we do. But Bobby is right. Fellas, go get checked out, man. Don't think that you have to go at this thing alone. We have been told, men don't cry. We've been told this thing that men don't need help. That's a lie. I'm telling you, that's going to keep you stuck. And so I just want you to, all to get some help. And so, Bobby, going back to this, man, I want to transition a little bit into something, man. So, and it's kind of like a roller coaster, man, because I'm about to go into something else. Bro, you've been on the ride, man. And you got a story, man. And I'll let you tell that part of the story about telling the story. We always talk about telling the story. But November, December last year, you dealt with something, man. November, December last year, you had dealt with a sickness,
Yeah.
at that particular time. On top of what you had already been dealing with. I want to kind of transition into that. If you had something you want to follow up on your last question, but just want to kind of shift into that November, December. Let's kind of talk about that. What happened in that time?
Well, what had happened, I had went out of town. Matter of fact, it was the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, and there was a lot going on. I'm going to Atlanta. I called myself trying to take a break. That was real. It didn't make no sense going back and looking at it now, because my body was starting to tell me something even then at that time. And also, too, for those of us who are in total life changes, y'all know what happens during Thanksgiving at the end of November, baby. It is Black Friday. And y'all, my goodness, I underestimated how crazy that day was going to be. But that actually helped exacerbate what was really about to happen. Because here it was, I go down to Atlanta not really feeling my best, but you know how we do, DeAngelo.
Yes.
We push through and we act like ain't nothing wrong, especially if we trying to do something and get somewhere, because we really trying to get somewhere and do something. So we push through all that. But I get to Atlanta, and I remember being at my sister's house on Thanksgiving Day, and I'm like, this is feeling familiar, and I don't like it, because it kind of reminded me of some of my original flares when I was diagnosed with MS back in 2006. And so I got to praying. I said, Father, please just let me get home. And he did. He allowed me to get home. And when I got home, I went into a full-fledged MS flare where my body basically shut down. And it lasted from basically the end of November all the way through December for the most part. I mean, I'm talking about for the first 2 weeks, I was in bed. I couldn't do nothing else. So while in bed, he talking to me. And one of the first things he said was, "You doing too much." And the reason why I was doing too much, and we'll get into that, of course, you know how you can heal?
Yeah.
but you know that there's still some stuff at a deeper level that needed to be dealt with, and you doing everything you possibly can to not really deal with that.
Yeah.
That's where I was at that particular time. And how I handled it was staying busy. If you remember, I was going here, I was going there. If somebody needed me at an event, I was going, I was speaking, I was doing so many lives, I was popping up on everybody's interview platform. I was all in. And part of that, I didn't mind serving, but part of that in my mind was helping me cope with what I really didn't want to deal with, because I knew if I really dealt with that, it was going to take something. I just didn't realize the damage that I was really doing to myself. And so me getting sick the way that I did in November, December of last year was actually needed. And I still had the audacity to come back and still do the Victor No More podcast. So in May of last year, he said, it ends today. I did my last interview uh, with Sarita Valmont, and that was in May of last year, May of this year. And from that point until now, that's the reason why the podcast has not seen the light of day. Because he said, what I need for you to do, I need for you to concentrate and work on you even more at a deeper level. And this was in May. So I want you to pay attention to what's going on. Because when I came back, matter of fact, I got back active again, so to speak, January 1st of this year. By this time, the 15-day challenge is in full force. Everybody, so many people are getting involved, and I have to give a special shout out to Tion and Talithia Bolden, because it allowed me to be a part of their accountability group, their chat on Instagram. And so it wasn't so much about me doing the physical stuff, even though I mastered that part. It was being in an environment that was constantly encouraging.
Yeah.
I needed that activity. I needed the phone to go off the way that it was going off at that time, so I could constantly see what was going on, what was being said, the encouragement. The Tion and Talithia, they are amazing, man. And so I will always appreciate them for giving a brother a safe haven to kind of hide out at, because I really didn't have a whole lot of input. I didn't input a lot. I just needed to just sit down and just watch and slowly but surely get myself together. But I want to fast forward because something was going on from January to May. And a lot of people experience this. And it's that ceiling. It's that you hit a point where you're not gaining any weight, but you're not losing anymore. And I knew I still had more. I still had more transformation to do. And it was like I was stuck, but all at the same time. On a personal level, I was struggling at home because I'm in an environment that ain't conducive for growth. And so it became a survival. I mean, an absolute survival. And I was like, something has to happen. And it did. So I'm kind of fast forwarding. I get a phone call one day. It's right at the end of May. It's our COO, Mr. John LeCar. Everybody that has any type of relationship with him, he real cool with it now. He ain't disrespectful, but he don't really ask you to do anything. He voluntold you to do something. So
What's that word?
He voluntold me.
Yeah, I've been I've been a recipient of that. We'll go.
He voluntold me that I was going to be a part of the first men's 15-day challenge.
Yeah.
And little did I know that was what I needed in that moment, because y'all, I got to a place where I wanted more. And I don't want to sound unappreciative when I say this, but you got to understand, folks that have lived a a life a certain way, they know that once they hit a certain point, there's more after that. And that hunger never stops. I appreciate my experience of being up on that stage in Houston last year, being a transformation contest winner. But here's what I noticed with a lot, not all, but with a lot of transformation contest winners. It's a hard truth. But it's something about once you stand up on that stage and you share your story, and everybody has an incredible story. Don't allow nobody to tell you that your story is not important. I don't care what anybody says, because typically when somebody says that, it is because they are afraid to share their own, or they haven't done anything incredible in their life of value to share with nobody yet. So they're going to try to tell and belittle your story. Do not allow anyone to do that.
That's right.
Period.
Right. That's right.
So I did that. And I also understood that there was another level of responsibility, because when I came up off of that stage, not only was I a life changer, but I literally became an ambassador for the company.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I did is part of the reason why the Victim No More podcast even was born. It was literally a platform developed originally to interview previous transformation contest winners, because here's another point. This is what I found out. And of course, you, my brother, you're an exception to the rule. This doesn't apply to you. But what I come to find out is that a lot of the transformation contest winners that had stood up on their stage, when I went and checked on them, their business had died, or basically they basically dropped out. And there was a reason why that had happened. They stopped telling their story.
I'm not an exception to the rule. I've experienced that.
And
I did experience that. That's a transparent moment. I experienced that. So I want you to know that, you know what I mean? So it was one of those things.
Well, by the time I had met you, yeah, you had it somehow or another. By the time you and I had conversed, and I'm kind of leaving your part of the story out right now. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is strategy, but just understand that.
Can y'all tell we hang around each other too much?
Yeah. But there is another level of expectation. It's literally a line from Tupac: "All eyes on me." And what I did not want to do is lose any type of momentum that I had built up until this point. And I remember that was some words of wisdom that you actually had shared with me.
Yeah.
And when you become a transformation contest winner, I have people ask me all the time, or not even ask me, they'll tell me, well, I want to go experience that. I want to do that. I want to stand up on that stage. And I say, oh, really? You really want that? Because please understand, life gets very, very real when you get exposed on that level. We're not, and it's no shade on local events. It's no shade on anybody else holding a transformation contest. Not at all. But it's something about when you stand on that company's platform and they present you to the world. No, because life is going to happen. It's going to 10x after that. Yeah. Are you ready for that? Now, if you're ready for that, come and get it. But if not,
chill out for a minute.
What they ask for.
You say chill out for a minute. I don't want you to go too far. Because I kind of want, and this is good, man. And with you and your story, man, I got a few more questions. I don't have a whole lot, but it's something I want to kind of transition to. I want you to take a breath for this one. This is somewhat of a shift, because now you started, you back doing the 15-day challenge. You in the 15-day challenge with the men's group that you were voluntold to do. And so shout out to Tion Bolden, though. Let me tell you a little quick story, Bobby P, about Tion.
Okay.
So Tion, when I was in the group with you, me, you, Tion, Ty, O'Brien, Danny, so many other ones. I can't say all the names,
yeah.
Our brother Evan,
Evan, yeah.
Albert, just and Danny, the list goes on and on. But we were in that group. That group really was life changing, right? And so I started really getting heavily involved with the 15-day challenge on a consistent basis with you guys in the group at that particular time. And so the
Mhm.
15-day challenge became real to me. And so I started with the My Zone watch, right? And Tion, man, this dude make you work, bruh. I just want to come on and tell him, man. He made me work. It was another person. It was a sister too that made me work too. I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
tell you her name. I'm gonna give you her name, and you're gonna trip out. Her husband's probably watching. And so it was Tion. He made me work, and Tina Bickett.
Uh-huh.
Man, look,
That's
man,
amazing, man. Yes, sir.
look. Dude, them two right there made me work, man. They made me work. And so I know how this go now. These challenges that we have every month. I know how they go. And with that My Zone, Tion somewhere lurking, bro.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
dude ain't gonna never give up, man.
No.
So you gotta slay the giant, bro. I'm just telling you all. So, but anyhow, let me go back. Speaking of, because in our life we have heroes in our life. We have people who influence our life. We have
Mhm.
people who we love, man. And I know you share with me a story, so I'm gonna transition into this story about somebody you love, you care about, who, part of your life that you might have had some issues in the past, but working on really developing that issue to the next level. And I want to talk a little bit about your dad. Let's talk a little bit about him,
Yeah.
and how he plays into this story. You take your time with this one.
Me and my dad, uh, as you alluded to, we had some issues in the past. Um, when I shared my, story in Houston last year, when I had talked about um, being molested as a child,
Yeah.
That situation at that particular time wasn't handled correctly by my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and so for some years, there and plus some other issues, but there
Yeah.
had been some contention between my father and I. And I say it's probably a little over 15 years ago now. I'm giving it that much time. I remember being over to his house, and we was outside on the front, and he said, "Son, have a seat." So we sit down there on the porch, and he said, "You know what, son? I want to take this opportunity to apologize for how I did not handle that situation correctly.
Yeah.
Please forgive me." When he did that, whatever contention, whatever strife, whatever animosity, even the other issues that was outside of that, all it just died
Mm.
when he did that.
Yeah.
And I needed that from him. I needed that from both parents, but to get it from him, it 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 literally blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it literally shifted our relationship. And I watched that man fight and struggle as far as his health. When I was a senior in high school, I watched this man, and I'm glad I had a conversation with him. So what I'm sharing with you, he's good with me sharing.
Okay.
I remember this man. I'm a senior in high school, and he caught chickenpox, yellow jaundice, hepatitis. He literally died. Like he died in the hospital. And that was also the moment that he had what he would call a spiritual awakening. And not to go into a whole lot of detail with that, but his relationship with God intensified. It
Wow.
10x from that point. So he made a tremendous shift. But fast forward, a few years ago, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and he beat lung cancer. And this is a man that comes from an entirely different generation. Uh,
Yeah.
they did things differently, especially when he was a child. He started smoking when he was 7 years old, so it kind of helps set the conditions that his lungs is in now.
Right.
He also worked 40 years and retired from a tobacco plant company called Lorillard. So any of us out here that smoke the cool cigarettes or the Newports, well, guess what? That's where that came from. Those cigarettes came from. And he being in that environment of that tobacco dust and then asbestos, because the standards in those factories back then is not the same as they are today. So all of that has culminated into some serious health issues with him. But the good news is, with the lung cancer, he's beaten that.
Yeah.
However, though, there's another issue, and he wanted me to share this to raise awareness,
Yeah.
just in case there may be smokers that is watching this podcast. So this is not out of judgment. This is literally from someone who already done walked this path, and he's literally telling y'all it ain't worth it. But he has this condition, and it's critical, and it's called pulmonary fibrosis of the lungs, and it's a literal hardening of the arteries, the everything that works within our lungs. And it's been pronounced that he has some limited time left. Now we all know God has the final say, but all at the same time, he's still doing God's will by encouraging people to go get checked out. If you have issues concerning tobacco, get some help with that because it causes other health issues. Um, and so, but to watch this man fight, to be on the phone with him sometimes, I can hear the struggle. When I'm sitting down and I'm talking with him, I can feel and sense the struggle with him just trying to just keep his breath. And I never forget this. Mm. Maybe about 6 months ago, he calls me out of the blue. And I was traveling on the highway. And he said, son, I got something to tell you. And I was like, okay. He said, are you doing anything right now? I said, I'm driving. He said, can you pull over? I said, okay, sure. I pulled over. And he said this. And so when people see me push the way that I do, this is a major factor. He said, son, I just want to take this opportunity to say how proud of you I am. He said, you told me that you was going to get your health together. And I've literally watched you do this. He said, I am so proud of you. He said, I can leave away from here and not worry about you and your health. I'm so glad that I pulled over because I wouldn't have been able to drive
Yeah.
after that. And I appreciate those words coming from anybody, but it's an entirely different ballgame when it's coming from your parent.
Yes, sir.
It has an entirely different weight. And so that's part of the reason why I go as hard the way as I do, because that man at 74 years old, facing what he is facing, he fights each and every day, literally for his breath. It is my responsibility at 52 to
Yeah.
make sure that I put my health in the best shape possible so I can have not only life, but life more abundantly. Because he reiterates a lot how much he want me to learn from him.
Yeah.
And this is one of the hardest lessons I've ever had to witness and be a student of. But that's the reason why I love that man so much.
Wow. Man, that's man, bro, bro. Um, okay. Just give me a second. Let me pull it together a little bit. Um, my dad died in '03, and we used to go back and forth with some things in our lives. And during the last several years of his life, we started really getting things back together. And I can remember that was the first eulogy I've ever done in my life. It was my dad's. I think I shared that with you. I think.
Yes.
And I remember driving down the street. I didn't cry at all during the funeral or the days leading up. I was there when they pulled his body out of the house. I walked in the back room. I don't know if I shared this with you before, but I walked in the back room, and he had a nurse, a hospice nurse was there.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was going frantic in the house. My mother and my siblings are screaming throughout down the street and out the house. And then they called the EMS, and I walked in the back and I saw him, and I touched his hand, and I looked at her. I said, "Listen, I know he's gone. I get that." I said, "Our hardest job is going to be getting him out this house." I said, but I had to coordinate that happening.
Mm-hmm.
My point from bringing that up is, Bobby, because I didn't cry all that time, I was holding on to it. And I was driving, got pulled over. I pulled over. Something pulled me over and said, just stop. And I broke down. And TD Jakes told me something. He didn't tell me directly. He told me this indirectly because I listened to something he said, right? He says, a man needs an opportunity to go to the backside of the desert and break down so God can build him back up. And so you went to the backside of the desert. You had broke down on several occasions. The 15-day challenge comes and re-energizes you, bro. It starts to give you new life again, And so you join the men's challenge that gave you new life. I know we had the Vegas event. I know you may want to hit on that a little bit, but you get new life now. You get new life. There were some things that happened this year too. Still, you still had some stuff that happened to you this year. But I want to talk about how the 15-day challenge re-energized you, and some of the, you don't have to go deep if you don't want, but kind of talk about July. What happened to you in July. Let's talk a little bit about that.
The men's 15-day challenge, man,
Mm-hmm.
did an amazing job for me. It was what I needed. Because that was also the first open platform where I shared with the brothers in there what was going on with me personally. I mean, you and I would have conversations, but I felt free enough and I felt safe enough to be vulnerable in front of these brothers and say, "Hey, look, this is what's going on with me. This is what's going on in my personal life. Hey, look, my marriage is over, and I'm hurting, and I'm working through this thing because this right here, I it's sometimes it's a bit much." And so it gave me that space, and it caused me to go deeper. So leading up to July, I want to kind of hit on something right quick. You remember I gave the men an assignment. And it's funny how sometimes as the teacher, we can give assignments that we ourselves haven't fully completed.
Mm-hmm.
And so you remember I gave the group
the mirror challenge.
The mirror challenge. It's called the See Me exercise. I actually got it from one of my coaches, the incredible Miss Lisa Nichols. And you take these post-it notes and you put them up on the mirror, and the first one says, "Hey, look, you need to remind yourself of 7 great good things that you have done." But that second post-it, this one right here, I was real good at dealing with the first and second level, because that second post-it note says, and everybody can put their own name in the blank, but for me, it was, "Bobby, I forgive you for." I had forgiven myself quite a few things, but the things that really mattered, the underneath stuff, the things that was down there in the roots, I hadn't touched. And so here I am, I'm giving y'all this exercise, but this was literally the lead into July, because what I hadn't dealt with is some of the realities of what had went on as far as marriage is concerned, who I was when I even started that relationship. I was a broken man. I had already been through a whole bunch of stuff up until that point, and the bottom line is that not only did I had no business marrying her, I had no business marrying anybody at that time. Period. But here's the deal. There were two children involved at that particular time, and I wanted to be their father. And that was one of the reasons why I did what I did as far as marrying her. And I have no regrets about that part. But it was a whole lot of things that happened that I carried a whole lot of. There's a difference in between being accountable and then carrying unnecessary weight that never belonged to you in the first place. And that's what I had been so guilty of, because I had been the rescue guy. The rescue guy can fix stuff. Yeah. Fix everything but your own stuff. And that was the issue that I had been carrying around, that burden I had been carrying around for years. And here it is. I'm in the men's 15-day challenge. And guess what? I got to deal with it now. And it manifested in such a way. I had a physical done the month before. This was an incredible event with me and my primary care physician, because her and I hadn't seen each other since COVID. And she was just so amazed by the weight loss, the whole transformation. She was excited. And of course, I had labs done and everything came back good. And I didn't hear anything from her after that for quite some time, until the end of June. And I get a notification from the VA. Hey, look, you have an appointment with the cardiologist July 12th. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what in the world done went on? Well, what it went on, of course, I went to Vegas. And Vegas was such an amazing event, because me knowing that I had a cardiology appointment waiting on me after Vegas, I knew it wasn't going to be great news. I knew it wasn't going to be that. They don't set appointments just for nothing. But I allowed Vegas to be what it's supposed to have been for me. And Vegas was absolutely incredible. And I got to witness something that, for those of us who were in the room, literally changed our lives. And it was my friend, brother, our COO, Mr. John Licari, stand up on that stage, flat-footed, and tell his story about him having cancer at that time. Yeah. And when he shared that, it galvanized that room, and it reverberated throughout the whole company. That was a moment that shifted a whole lot of things concerning total life changes, and it would never be the same again. And so I'm forever grateful for him having the courage to stand up on that stage and share what he had shared, because that was absolutely incredible. And it encouraged me to actually keep going on and to go face what I was getting ready to face. So after Vegas, I go to this cardiologist appointment. I have an EKG done. And when the EKG came back, there were three issues. I had a blockage to the left, blockage to the right, and then this other issue called ventricular hypertrophy, which is a hardening of the heart walls. And, the doctor we're having this conversation, and he's going back and he's looking through, you know, my transformation as far as how much weight I've dropped. And he noticed something. He noticed an EKG from 2019 because I had somebody hit me from behind in a parking lot. And so EKG was done back then. And he started putting two and two together because what he was seeing on the EKG of July wasn't close to what had been seen back in August of 2019. And so he asked me a question. Well, actually, before he asked the question, he said, Bobby, you're doing a tremendous job as far as your weight. Continue doing that. All your labs look good. You're fine with that. He said, but I have a question for you. He said, what is going on with you in your personal life, in your home life, that is stressing you to the point where these issues are now showing up with your heart? And I'm like, what issues? He gave me the technical terms, but he broke it down like this. He said, the reason why we're seeing what we're seeing is because of stress. And this is a high amount of stress within a short amount of time. What has been going on with you? What has been going on in your life within these last 3 years that has caused you to stress? And the reason why this stress shows up the way that it does, because you have had prolonged spikes in your blood pressure. And this is why we are seeing what we are seeing with your heart. What has been going on? What has been going on is me literally carrying the burden every day, every night. And it didn't matter how many lives I did. It didn't matter what I showed to the world. It didn't matter how much I spoke. It didn't matter how bold I came across. It didn't matter how much confidence I had. The bottom line is that internally, I was still struggling because I'm trying to still hold on to something for a very long time that had already been dead. And see, here's the problem with a lot of us. We are so afraid to face the fact that there's an issue, whether it be marriage, whether it be other types of relationships. We are afraid to actually call the thing a thing and acknowledge that it's dead, because we are afraid to actually pronounce the funeral.
We're afraid that it's over.
We are afraid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so after that appointment, I had another appointment in the VA, and I had enough time to go get some lunch. I couldn't even do that, DeAngelo.
Yeah.
I literally, that appointment was so heavy, the only way I could escape was just fall asleep. And I fell asleep in the car. It was that crucial.
Yeah.
And so I took that news, and for 10 days, he gave me, hey, look, you're doing great with your exercise, but what I want to do is reset your pace. I want to kind of reset what we're doing here. After 10 days, you can get back to your exercising. So for 10 days, I did nothing. Yeah. It was very hard for me to do nothing.
I already know.
It was extremely hard. But he also gave me the assignment of recording my blood pressure twice a day.
Yeah.
And so the very next day, and I want y'all to catch this part right here. And this is why total life changes will forever be a part of my life. There will always be a connection, because this is just part of my assignment, period. He calls me and he said, Mr. Patterson, I want to call and confirm that you're starting to take your blood pressure twice a day. And I also want to reiterate something, because I'm not sure if you understood me. I want you to understand something. Had you not dropped the weight that you had dropped, change your eating lifestyle. He didn't say diet. He said change your eating lifestyle, the way that you have. And whatever products that you have been taking with that company, because there's no way in the world I was going to be in this office and not talk about total life changes.
Right.
There's a reason why. you seeing what you're seeing, Doc. God, TLC.
Right.
He said, had it not been for those three factors, he put it this way: had I still been in the same physical shape that I was in August of 2019, he would not have had the task of telling me what was wrong with my heart the day prior, because chances are I wouldn't have been here.
Wow.
Because he had never seen, he said it's very rare to see that those type of conditions happen with your heart that fast over a short period of time due to stress. Stress was literally on its way to kill me.
Mm. So I just want to make sure I say this. This is a lot to unpack, okay? This is a lot, right? But sitting there, doctor tells you this. You got stuff that going on at home. He already then called it out. This is at home. In the midst of all of the things that are going on, the regular pain that you suffer through, and after all of that, you still find time to get back, stay consistent with the 15-day challenge. So much so, I guess can't dismiss this. He wins $1,000 in a transformation contest on Tuesday, right? And now's in the running to win $25,000. Bro, make it make sense, bro. I'm just saying, I call him Aquaman, right? That's our joke. This dude is literally a walking billboard, a testament to never giving up, never throwing the towel in, through the pain, through the hurt, through the I don't know if there's any greater pain than love. That's, you're going through that turmoil, but you find it in yourself, man, to be in a position right now to win $25,000. Let me scratch that. You're positioned to pick your check up.
That's the language I was looking for. I was like,
25.
Come on now.
Say it right. If you're going to say it
right. You're going to say it right.
So you're in position right now. All they got to do is put the name on the check because you fought for this. Bro, you earned this. This is what it's about, man. This is transformation. This is what the challenge is mind, body, and spirit, bro. You have been tested and through the fire. I wanted you to talk about that, and then I want to say this because I know the hour is getting by us, but I just want to make sure I say this because I need to know. You got to tell me what's your why, bro. You got to tell me. I need to know what it feels like to be on the cusp of bringing that amount of money home. And if you want to tie it, that's okay. I got some good ground to tie it in. So here it is. You're on the cusp of bringing that type of money home. You've already brought the grand home, right? And so now you're on the cusp of bringing the other check home. I need to know what that feels like. And what's your why, man? What is your? I need to know. You got to get that to me, man.
Well, before I get to that point, and I understand y'all, we done been over an hour, but I didn't come this far just to keep going this far because see that you can't talk about the problem and then don't give the solution.
Take the time then.
So I want to get back to this heart issue.
Okay.
And as you alluded to, yes, I went through the Transformation Tuesday. I was blessed to win $1,000, man. Couldn't really show my excitement the way that I wanted to because, like I had said earlier, I had a trigeminal neuralgia flare happen right in the middle of me giving my testimony. And so I got through that episode as best as I could. But there was more for me to actually get through. And so here it is. I'm having issues with my heart, but I'm having even deeper issues with unforgiveness of myself. Yeah. So we about to come home with this thing now. So what had happened at the end of August, and before I get to the end of August of 2022, let me talk about the last weekend of August of 1997. The last weekend of August of 1997, that's when me and my ex-wife had actually had a serious conversation. And that conversation literally changed both of our lives. You know, here it is. You know, you don't know what you don't know. You don't understand how brokenness can affect everything. You don't understand how you not being healed and walking in that healing can benefit you as far as relationships are concerned. And so there was something within one another that we found a connection with. And so there was a whole lot of things that were said during that conversation that put wheels in motion, and ultimately we get married. And I've for years I've held a lot of regret about that conversation. And it just so happened, you know, going towards the end of August, the finale, you know, we parted ways. And I didn't want to be around when they walked out the door. So I said, Father, where I need to go? I went to Charlotte. He said, go to Charlotte. He said, also go to Lancaster, South Carolina. Lancaster, South Carolina was actually the city where her and I had met. That had never really been my favorite city for many reasons. And that memory really was a huge part of it. But see, by this time, I didn't care what he told me to do. I'm going to go do it. See, when life you long enough, you learn how to live. So I ain't about to put up no argument. So I'm like, okay, that I will do. He said, there's 4 places that you needed to go. The first place that I needed to go on that Saturday, which happened to be the last weekend of August of 2022. First place I need to go is go see my other mother. Y'all seen me post her, an amazing woman of God. She's a pastor. And 24 years ago, she took a liking to her brother and literally adopted me as her son. And I have to say it like that because even though my mother, my natural mother, that relationship is not where I would like for it to be, God always has somebody waiting to do what somebody else ain't willing to do.
Come on, say that. You
got to be in a position to receive it.
That's right.
So that woman has covered me in prayer. She has prayed with me. She's literally given me keys to her church so I can just lay across the altar and just cry before God.
Wow.
So I went and I spent time with her. I made her aware of the issues that I was having with my heart at the time, and she wasn't too happy about that. And then she asked me, she said, well, baby, how long are you going to be around here? And I told her, I said, well, I got 3 other places I needed to go. And then when I told her these 3 places, all she could do was just smile. And she said, okay, babe. So the first place I had to go to after I left her was 426 Rock Street. That's the apartment that I had first gotten when I had moved away from living with my best friend and his wife for 6 months. Because I had been in a situation when I was living in Virginia Beach, and basically they came and rescued a brother. And so I stayed with them for 6 months, and it was time for me to get my own place. And that was the apartment. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. Well, during the time that I had this 1-bedroom apartment, this one I had met, my ex-wife, and, we ended up getting married. And the instruction was just to go past, not stop, but just go past. And as I'm going past, I'm not remembering any of the bad stuff that ever happened. I'm getting all the good memories, because regardless of how we ended, everything wasn't bad.
That's right.
And I got to honor that. So I'm having these good memories of some of the stuff that happened, and I fooled around, got married, and moved her and her 2 children into my 1-bedroom apartment. We made it work, but she got pregnant with our youngest boy, and I said it's time to get a house now. So we ended up getting a house, and so my next place that I needed to drive past was 2615 Tully Court. Drove past the house, even though it had some alterations done to it. that house was still there. And nothing but good memories just flooding. And I'm just appreciating and having all this gratitude for even that part of the journey, because there was a whole lot that happened even during that time. And I'm going back and I'm remembering when my son was born, and I'm holding him in the hospital and bringing him home from the hospital. All of that was coming back to me. And by this time, I'm a little bit emotional, but I still had to just go past. I hope y'all following me when I'm talking about this way, because I want somebody to catch what's about to happen next. Because the next stop, which was the last stop, I couldn't go past there. I had to meet him there. I have to say it that way. I had to meet him there. Him who? Him, God, the Holy Spirit. I had to meet him there. So I go to Main Street of Lancaster, and he takes me to the spot where this conversation took place on the last weekend of August of 1997. So I pull over and I get out of the car, and I'm standing on the sidewalk, and I even took pictures of where I was, and that conversation come back. And I'm remembering all of the missteps. I'm remembering some of the things that were said about me by people that didn't even know my destiny. And somehow or another, during the process, y'all just going through this experience, you get tired, and that wears on you. And I'm remembering everything that transpired after that conversation. And then the Holy Spirit said this to me. He said, son, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Even though it wasn't my perfect will, because you married her, I had to honor that. You was a father to two children that wasn't yours biologically. Mm-hmm. And yes, there was a whole lot of mistakes that were made, and everybody has their part. He said, but there's a new chapter I need to launch you into, but I cannot release you until you drop and release everything right here in this very spot. Y'all, I didn't care who was watching. I didn't care who was going up and down Main Street, Lancaster, South Carolina. I didn't care who was walking out of that restaurant right next door to the spot where I had that conversation with her. I'm standing there and I'm walking around in that with lifted hands. I had surrendered. I was like, wherever you got for me to go and whatever you got for me to do in this next chapter, I'm ready. Yeah. I got to turn all this loose. I forgive myself. Wow. Because I am no longer that man that made those decisions 25 years ago. That's right. Y'all, it was as if a boulder was lifted up off of my shoulders. And I left away from there in an entirely different space, in an entirely different spirit. I was giving him the praise the whole way back to Charlotte. So I'm going to fast forward. I got to go back to the cardiologist the next Tuesday. Oh, yeah, by the way, this whole conversation took place the last weekend of August of 2022, 25 years later. Catch where I'm going with all that. So here it is, fast forward that Tuesday, I'm at the cardiologist. They doing another EKG. The doctor walks in the office. He says, you know what, Bobby? I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this for 25 years. He said, I've only seen this twice. And I said, doctor, what are you talking about? He said, you remember the blockage that we were talking about to the left and to the right? I said, yeah. He said, they are nowhere near prevalent as they once was. As a matter of fact, I really have to really list them as asymptomatic now. I
Wow.
have the paperwork to prove it just in case
Wow.
somebody want to call me on it. Not a problem. Documentation beats conversation each and every day.
Whew, man.
Y'all, the physical issues of my heart were literally tied to the spiritual issues of my heart. And when that got right, the physical got in line. I can tell you that my life radically changed starting in June with the men's 15-day challenge
Wow.
because it caused me to dig deeper. It caused me to really, really want more. It caused me to go to a higher height and a deeper depth because I knew there was more. And I don't mean any harm, and I have no non-appreciation as far as me winning the transformation contest back last year. But because I know he is taking me into a new territory, he is taking me into a new chapter, a new level, if you will. What I can't do is use the old testimony, the old victory as a blueprint for the new chapter.
Right. I'm with you.
I appreciate that. And for what it served at that particular point, yes, it did that. But I
Yeah.
couldn't remain the Bobby that I was back then. If I did, I wouldn't be who I am now. The whole idea, and I want y'all to catch this, God has such an incredible sense of humor, and he will use the foolish things to confound the wise. He literally used a program that was birthed and born out of our COO, Mr. John LeCarry, called the 15-Day Challenge. And the 15-Day Challenge is nothing more and nothing less than an opportunity to, first of all, put you first.
Yeah.
And as you put you first, you are able to work on your mind, body, and spirit
That's right.
15 days at a time.
Yeah.
15 days at a time. And I have to put this in here because you asked me, well, what drives me? What is my why? And this is my last story. Back in June, once again, I'm friends with an incredible life changer by the name of Miss Octavia Perkins, and she has a 12-year-old son named Cairo, and her and I got connected. She was drawn by my story, and we started following each other on Instagram. And so a friendship was born out of that. And she notified me one day and said, hey, look, I've had to get my son in the emergency room because he's had this pain in his face, in his neck, and his behind in his head. And long story short, it was actually a mass. And so this young man, let's say for instance, that I don't have the days exact, let's say that happened on a Wednesday. I think maybe that Thursday or Friday, he's in surgery because now they want to take samples of this mass to see, okay, chances are we know this is cancerous. We just need to know what type of cancer it is. So I have a conversation with her on this Saturday, and she shares with me he gets through the surgery like a champ. And they're sending the sample up, to get it tested out to find out what type of cancer it is. And I hear him in the background. So I said, Tavia, put Cairo on the phone. Cairo gets on the phone, and I said, hey, bro, I'm proud of you. I'm praying for you. You're going to make it through this without a doubt. I said, but what I want you to do is just be honest with me right now. How do you feel? When he said this right here, I had to get off the phone with him because I couldn't take it. He said it just like this. He said, Mr. Bobby, I'm good. He said it just like that, DeAngelo.
Wow.
At that moment, whatever I was going through, it didn't matter because I'm good. I've got to be good if he's good. Because see, here's the other further story with that. This young man, come to find out, was dealing with a stage 4 cancer sitting up in his face, his neck, and behind his head.
Wow.
Now here's the better news. He done beat that joker.
Wow. Bro. Wow, that's a blessing. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
That's why I y'all see me drive the way that I do. I don't care. Sometimes when I'm out there and I'm walking, it feel like literal knives in the bottom of my feet. There are times, y'all, I'm dealing with extreme fatigue. There are times when the trigeminal neuralgia want to try to flare up right in the middle of me working out. I can't. Now I got enough sense to stop when I know it's time for me to stop. But it takes a lot to convince me to stop. Because when you got folk like my father walking around and still being who he is, when you have young men, 12-year-old child who done dealt with a stage 4 cancer and has the audacity to get on the phone and tell me, Mr. Bobby, I'm good. I have no excuse.
Yeah.
I may have reasons, but I definitely don't have an excuse. We got folk walking around here who literally have fought for their life. There's a young lady in the chat right now. Her name is Jill Sturge. She is part of the 25K group. Sparkle, she is also part of the group. But Jill Sturge, she literally beat breast cancer. I believe there was like a stage 3, I think maybe even stage 4. Y'all, we got some incredible people just part of the 25K challenge. And just being a part of that group, I mean, all of us want to win that 25K, but there are some real strong connections that have been made just based off of this experience. If you have an opportunity to take part of the 15-day challenge, trust me, please do as such. You're able to do it for free now. You have no excuse. You have to work on yourself. This is all about your mind, body, and spirit, and it is okay to love yourself and put you first. Wow. And I'm telling you, as somebody who was standing on the other side of through, I done been through it, y'all. I am what it looks like when you literally work on your mind, body, and spirit 15 days at a time. I'm done.
Bro. Wow. Man, I'm good. That right there, that need to be on a t-shirt, man. I'm good. Right? I'm good. Because, man, you just broke that thing down, man. And 12 years old.
12 years old.
Beat stage 4 cancer, bro. Come on, man.
Walked up
we think we got some stuff.
Walked up out that hospital, I think it was last week, like a straight soldier.
Wow. Shout out to him. Shout out to his mom, man.
His mom is incredible because she stood and walked through that thing with him step by step, talking with her while she's right there. He's in the hospital bed. She's right there beside him on whatever lounge chair or whatever couch they may have had in there. I mean, that whole process, wow, that takes an entirely different type of human being.
You're right, man. Man, shout out to her, man. Kudos to her. Man, Bobby, this has been This has been great, bro. I know people still on the chat. I kept trying to peek at the chat. Some people don't want to go, man. Man, I'm glad that you
and I have to interject here.
Oh.
And I would be remiss if I got off of here and not say thank you for your part that you played in making all this happen, man. Wow. I can't tell my story without going back to that second Sunday of 2020, July of 2020. I was virtually an unknown. Yeah, I was posting about my transformation, yeah, but wasn't really nobody paying attention. And so one day you called me up and encouraged me in more ways than you can imagine. And the things that you left with me, I actually teach. And you told me, whatever you do not stop telling your story. He said, you said within your story, there is prosperity, there's protection, there's provision. And I've stood on that. I have lived that. And when I continue to live that, my story keeps evolving. So I always got a new story to tell. That's why I don't have to depend on the old glory to conquer new heights.
Say that.
So I want to thank you for continuously living out your assignment. You didn't have to reach out to me when you did and how you did it. And from that point, we grew a connection. You my brother. I love you, and I am enjoying how your new transformation is happening right before our eyes. And brother, I can't wait to see you on stage telling your story. I love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate that, man. I'm humbled by your words always, man. But I'll tell you, man, your story has inspired not just hundreds, but thousands of people around the world, man. If you wouldn't have told it, man, nobody wouldn't have heard how great they can be from your story of being an overcomer, bro. I can hear my friend and my sister, Dr. Kimberly, talking about being an overcomer. Bro, you're an overcomer. And people's lives have been transformed because you opened your mouth and told your story, man. And guess what, man? There's some little kid somewhere who's dealing with some issues that they don't really understand, man. And because you had the courage to tell your story. And guess what? That little kid is trapped inside of an adult's body.
Yes.
And they want to tell a story. And you have given them permission to tell a story and fight for what they want, man. You have fought for what you wanted. You have came through, man, through some dark days. But, bro, you have enjoyed some mountaintop moments. And I got a feeling you got some more mountaintop moments in you, man.
I got one more.
Yeah.
I got another one. I got another one coming.
Yeah.
I want my father to see that.
Yes, sir. What's your dad's first name?
Bobby.
Bobby.
I
Bobby Sr.? Bobby Sr., if you catching this, I just want to tell you this. We are proud of you, man, for fighting for you. We are proud of you, man, for what you're doing to encourage your son. I want you to see your son stand on that stage, hoisting that $25,000 check. And guess what, Bobby Sr.? It's for you, man. Everything he's doing, man, is because you have made it possible for him to do that. So I just want to let you know. And I know you're dealing with some things right now, but God has your back, and you're gonna get through. And we just thanking God for you, man. So keep on pushing with Bobby Sr. Keep telling your story, because your story got to be told. And so we just want to say thank you. Thank you for Bobby P, your son. We thank you for him. Thank you for him. So, man, I just want to put that out there, man. Appreciate you, bro. Man, this has been one of those moments that you had to be here. This is not something I can't tell the story. You had to be here to hear it. And so, man, thank you, man, for opening up. Thank you for sharing, man. And I don't know, but I'm led to do something, man. I hope it's okay. I just want to pray before we leave. Is that okay if I just pray before we leave?
You
I
gotta
just want
ask.
to do that.
You gotta ask, really.
Father God, we just want to say thank you tonight, Lord, for the Victim No More podcast. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for Bobby P, Lord. We thank you, Lord, for allowing him, Lord, to share his testimony, to share his story with not just the viewers that are here live, but for those who are catching it on replay, for those who are not just, Lord, in North Carolina or Michigan, but for those around the world. Lord, I pray, Lord, that you will allow someone to hear his story. For that person, Lord, who is going through trauma, trials and tribulations and hurt. They may feel like some of the stuff is their fault that they're going through. Or they may feel like, Lord, that you have forgotten them. Lord, I need you to reassure them, Lord, that they can make it through. Lord, I thank you, Lord, for your manservant tonight, Lord, and how you have used him today. Lord, I ask you will continue to strengthen him, Lord. Continue to prepare him for the journey ahead, because we know that there's a journey ahead. Lord, I pray for his dad right now. Lord, I pray, Lord, that you will cover him and camp your angels around him. Give him strength. Lord, I pray for peace that surpasses all understanding for his life. Lord, I pray for that young man, 12 years old, Lord. I thank you for him and his mom. Continue to strengthen them, Lord. Lord, I pray right now, Lord, that you will continue to keep them. Lord, we thank you for every person that's here today, Lord, who is witness to what happened tonight, Lord. And it was good for us all to be here. And Lord, we thank you for what you're doing in their lives. And it's in your name, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
Thank you for doing this interview. You was the only one that could do it. And I appreciate everybody that has come and checked out the live. Thank you for those who's going to catch it on replay. And please share it. Yeah, it's a little bit long than the typical podcast or the interview, but it's rich all the way through. It's not a boring moment at all throughout the whole deal. There's lessons to be learned. There's hope to be shared, and I have nothing to be ashamed of. I'm free. I'm walking in a level of freedom now that I had never. That I can't. The last time I came close to walking in this level of freedom and being so comfortable with who I am was actually coming out of boot camp when I was in the Navy. And ironically, I went to boot camp in Orlando, Florida. I have a destiny. I have an assignment. I got a date. It's called November 12th on that stage, Orlando, Florida. I love each and every one of y'all. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And yes, the Victim No More podcast will be back in 2023. But for now, God bless and good night.
Good night, everybody.
Don't go anywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.